make a decision if I want some peace or if I want the glory, yeah. Don't want a life that is complacent or
Friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all are doing well, whatever time that you are watching this. Today, I'm kind of doing something different, and I'm going to be doing Ravenflower's 2022 tag video. So for those of you who might not know, I'm a practicing witch and a high priestess of the Solar Court Coven, as well as a business owner. All of my links are down below, so feel free to check all of that out. If this is your first time watching any of my videos, it's nice to meet you. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. So yeah, like I said, Ravenflower made this tag style video, and a tag is basically where people can respond to the challenge, if you will. And I was tagged by BeanbagHagWag, who has an amazing channel here on YouTube. If you're not familiar with BeanbagHagWag, you should definitely go check them out. I will leave a link to the video I was tagged in the description bar below. I have 22 questions here from Ravenflower, which, by the way, Ravenflower, if you are watching this, hi. I've been watching your channel for a while, and like, I've been in a couple of your live streams, and I'm like that weird girl who like asks all the questions and like spams your live chat. Thank you so much for making this tag, and I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation and to be tagged for the first time. I've never been tagged before on YouTube, so I'm kind of excited to try this tag style video. The very first question is New Year's resolutions. Do you believe in them? I do believe in New Year's resolutions, but here's my thing. So as a practicing witch, at Samhain, I make my witchy resolutions for the new witch's year. So typically those would be spiritual resolutions, like working more in my book of shadows, or learning more types of dance, or studying a foreign language, or committing to a certain type of practice. That would be the time of year where I make more of my magical goals. And then in January is typically, like for New Year's Eve, is when I am making my mundane goals, you know, like very typical things: lose 10 pounds, you know, deep clean the house and blah, blah, blah. Like, that is when I'm making more mundane goals, you know, maybe like manifest a new car, a better car, or whatever, right? Like build my platform, whatever. That's when I'm making physical goals. So do I believe in New Year's resolutions? Hell yeah, of course. I think that, you know, you can manifest all year long, but I do think that tapping into the current of New Year's Eve, there is power there, in my opinion. And yes, you can start a new leaf any day of the year. You can manifest something new at any time. But I do think that New Year's Eve, in a very mundane, muggly sort of way, kind of pushes us to really assess where we've been and where we plan to go. So, to be fair, I haven't really read through all of these questions thoroughly. So number 2 is why or why not. I think I kind of already answered that. I think it's just a good way for us to kind of stay on track and start the first step towards manifestation, which when it comes to manifestation, a lot of times where people go wrong is they make these really big goals, right? So they make like these big goals like that are not necessarily attainable. So I think in order to really make sure that we are achieving the highest amount of success is that we want to have first realistic goals. And then secondly, we want to break that larger goal down into maybe 3 or 5 smaller goals that will help us achieve the larger goal. You should be making your magical resolutions at Samhain. So your spiritual and magical resolutions to be made at the Witch's New Year. And then in January, or New Year's Eve, you can make your resolution for your more mundane day-to-day life sort of things. So question number 3 is, what is your favorite color? And that's kind of hard for me because it depends on what sort of season in life, I guess, that I'm in. Lately, I would say my favorite color is probably red. However, I love pink. And I love black, and purple, but I think lately my favorite color is probably, oh, I don't know, pink or red for sure. Number 4 is, does that hold any sort of magical meaning, your favorite color? I think this is such a fun question. For me, the color red represents blood. It represents power. It represents fire. It represents sexuality and spirituality. It also very much connects me with Lilith, who is a goddess that I work very closely with. Libra sun, so my ruling planet is Venus. So all things Venusian very much speak to me. So pinks and reds, you know, kind of perfectly go in line with that. And if you've watched my channel, you might already know this, but if you're new to me or my channel, a big part of my practice would be planetary magic. And working with my ruling planet being Venus is a big aspect of my practice. Connecting to that planet and wielding and manipulating the current and the energy of that planet is, you know, something that's always in my forefront. Number 5 is, do you use any substances in your practice for divination or meditation, such as like flying ointments or alcohol? So I live in the Midwest, have some pretty conservative views, unfortunately, when it comes to various things. So for legal purposes, I only participate in legal activities in my state. No, but like, I do think that substances can play a role. I think that there's a reason why we call alcohol spirit. Think about that for a second. I think that there is some real legitimacy in why we call it spirits. In terms of other things, I think that substances can definitely enhance your practice if used in a respectful way. I have no issue with substances in the craft or substances in ritual. Like I said, as long as things are respectful and as long as it is intentional and you're not just getting sloshed for no reason, then I think that it can serve a purpose. So question number 6 is why or why not? I think I kind of answered that. Question number 7 is, what is your favorite part of your practice? I think for me, when I think of practice, I think of more of like a daily sort of thing. And a big thing for me is, as cliche as this is going to sound, literally when I get up, lighting a stick of incense to kind of like set the mood for the day. And I have a lot of different sorts of incense that kind of, you know, they all have different properties. So for example, maybe like a patchouli rose for sex and money, or maybe a vanilla for beauty, maybe like a cinnamon for protection, sexuality, etc., etc. Maybe like a dark moon for something a little bit more in line with a malefica. I really enjoy lighting incense as soon as I get up in the morning. After I brush my teeth and I start my coffee, I come in here, which this room here is my home office. And this is where I get ready. I have like a whole vanity set up because I'm also a hairdresser as well. So I'm very lucky that I have an entire salon set up from my home, and I get ready and I light some incense while I get ready, and it's a beautiful experience and I love that so much. I think another like equal part to my practice would also be, I love making my own tools. I love making my own things for the craft. So on my channel, I've made like some oil videos and some recipe videos. Of course, spellcraft as a witch, that's gonna be a huge thing. But like also making oils and making ritual bath mixtures. Like I really enjoy the hands-on approach to the craft a lot. And of course, divination too. Like it's hard for me to say like what is my favorite part, because I honestly live and breathe witchcraft. Question 8 is, what is your least favorite part of your practice? And this one is kind of hard for me to answer, honestly, because I don't know if I have a least favorite. I mean, there are parts of my practice that can be intense or maybe are hard, You know, like sometimes doing shadow work, sure, can be a challenge and can be difficult to really take our own inventory and like be checking in with ourselves and being honest and real with ourselves. Your least favorite part of your practice. To be honest, this question is kind of hard because I feel like your practice should be your own. And if you don't vibe with something, like if you are not feeling that you are benefiting from a part of your practice, then maybe you should reconsider why you are incorporating that into your practice. Now, it's one thing if things are uncomfortable or hard, like shadow work or education, like forcing yourself to like really sit down and educate yourself and read instead of going out. However, if it's your least favorite, like if you don't like part of your practice, then maybe that's a sign for you to really reassess your practice. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, your practice can be whatever the you want it to be. I have to say, I love this tag because these questions are definitely thought-provoking. Number 9 is, how do you feel that your practice has grown over time? Well, I would say, especially if you've been following me here on YouTube, you can go back and look at some of my older videos. And my practice has definitely grown. I think that growth is a normal and healthy and encouraged part of the craft. You know, earlier on in my witchcraft and in my paganism and in my orthopraxy, I definitely, you know, leaned a little bit more towards, I would say, like, more of a metaphysical and Wiccan persuasion. And then as I've kind of been in the occult world, I've leaned actually a little bit more so towards the opposite. So instead of being like, you know, waist deep in metaphysics, I kind of started switching more towards the occult community. And then instead of being more Wiccan based, I have found myself being more and more and more pulled towards traditional witchcraft. But also too, I find myself rejecting a lot of labels because I feel like at the end of the day, I am a witch. Number 10, is there a show or movie that inspires you? Well, I don't know about inspire, but if we're thinking about like witchcraft based shows or movies, the Netflix Sabrina is iconic. Of course, we have like the OG 90s The Craft or Practical Magic. Those are both amazing films that I still watch, even in 2022. Okay, and also The Love Witch. I mean, come on. Number 11, do you have a familiar? So, do I have familiar spirits? Yes. Do I have an animal that is a familiar in the physical? Not necessarily. However, I recently did a video on Legion of Lilith's channel talking about jinn and sahir, and we talked about khan, which are a type of jinn that possess animals. So if you're interested in hearing about that, go check out that video. Number 12, would you recommend any YouTube channels? I have watched WitchTube, aka witchy YouTube videos, longer than I've been a creator, and I've been on YouTube for a while. And I remember one of the first people I started watching was Tiptoe Chick. May she rest in peace. She had some good energy, and she put a lot into this community. And I don't know if her content is necessarily what I would be watching now, but at the time when I was watching her, it was the content that I needed. Of Black Witch Coven, Savannah, I think that she's an incredible, incredible soul and person, and like the work that she does and how transparent she's been, especially as an LHP sort of witch. You know, she was one of the first ones that I came across who was unapologetically left-hand path. Another witch that I really kind of like admire and have like a girl crush on would be like Chris Ashburn. I don't know if I'm saying their last name right or not, but they are just such an authentic, raw, and real person. And like watching their growth and watching their channel, and especially their exploration of their own understanding of the priesthood, is really inspiring, and you should definitely check out their channel as well. Number 13 is like, name something that you must do daily in order to feel comfortable, like in your practice. Putting myself together. The days where I just kind of like lounge around and am just kind of like gross and not really put together, like I feel gross and not really put together. Now, put together could be like, you know, taking a shower, moisturizing, putting on some comfy clothing. I'm not saying that every single day needs to be, you know, a glamour puss sort of day, but I feel that the more energy I put into taking care of my physical flesh vessel, the better off I feel. Routine. What is something that started off as an obstacle that you now see as a blessing? So when I was 22, I lost my mother, who was like my best friend. And in losing my mother, it really sent me into some really hard spaces, mentally and emotionally. I've made a whole video, like I said, on my channel, detailing the whole experience and exactly what happened. So I'm not going to recount everything in this tag video. The most traumatic experiences of my life. And there's this quote, and I forget who it's by. So if you know, please comment down below. But essentially the quote is, "Someone I loved very much once gave me a box filled with darkness, and it took me years to understand that this too was a gift." My mother, while it was one of the most traumatizing experiences of my entire life, at least this go around, was also a huge blessing for me in more ways than one. And if you're interested in hearing about that situation, you're welcome to check out my video. Number 15 is like, what do you prefer? YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. So you can find me on most social media platforms. All of my links are down below. And I like social media for different reasons. I think that my main source of social media, like I use Facebook on a daily basis. I'm trying to be better with Instagram, but it's kind of hard and I don't know why. TikTok is pretty easy because it's quick, fast, easy content. And then YouTube is just like near and dear and close to my heart. All of my links down below, as well as find me on Patreon if you want to support me and the channel and get some special perks. So number 16 is, what do you feel is missing from our witchcraft community? So I feel like my answer to this question might rustle some feathers, maybe. And if it does, fuck them. That's how I feel. I feel is missing from our witchcraft community is the support and the uplifting of the voices of witches of color, Black and brown and indigenous witches. I think that uplifting their voices and supporting their content is way fucking overdue. How many authors do we have that are of the European descent that we are still touting, and their books were written 20, 30 years ago, and we're still recommending their books? Big thing for me is also supporting and uplifting queer witches. I often feel rejected from the witchcraft community. I have faced myself discrimination from the community in more ways than one, not just for being trans. It's been hard. And there was a long time where I felt like I couldn't completely be myself in the community because I felt like if I was, then I would be judged or not accepted. And being myself is a very radical choice that I make. And, you know, I don't know if I would say it's bravery, because to me it's life or death. So being myself isn't a matter of being brave, it's a matter of choosing to live. And I don't know if the sacredness of women like me is always really understood, or even people, other witches, being willing to listen to it. So I think that something that's missing from our community is being willing to just listen to other experiences and not jump to conclusions, and just to listen and support and uplift our fellow witches. Number 17, how much space do you use for your craft? Well, I kind of make my craft wherever I am. So, this is my home office where I have a lot of my stuff, but also like we have a shop. And so I do a lot of stuff there. I also do a lot of stuff out in the actual woods, not necessarily here in the comfort of my own home. But I kind of feel like wherever I am, I make the most of it. Number 18, how many altars do you have in your home? Well, I have my working altar, an ancestral altar, I have a sabbatical altar, I have a home and hearth / money altar, and a couple of like little shrines. So yeah, I guess like my crow brain makes me want to have like multiple altars. To kind of like break it down quickly and briefly, like my working altar is where I do spell work primarily. My sabbatical altar is for like the wheel of the year. So that's where I kind of set it up more as a representation of each wheel turn. My home and hearth altar, as well as my money altar, is more for the protection of my home and our ancestral spirits. And then I have various shrines to like different deities and things like that. 19, what is your favorite Sabbat? Well, Imbolc is when I dedicated as a witch through Bridget and like the Sacred Flames. And so Imbolc definitely has a special place in my heart. But I think that my favorite Sabbat would probably be, I don't know, now maybe Lammas, because like our coven has our retreat at Lammas, and there's a certain magic in the air during Lunacid that is just unique to that time of year. And it's this transitional time between, summer and fall. But I also love Mabon, and I'm a fall equinox baby. I was born during the fall equinox, so I naturally feel drawn to that as well. For 20, do you prefer tarot, oracle, runes, pendulum? So I love all systems of divination. I teach RWS, which is Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, which is kind of the second generation from Tarot de Marseille. I teach that at the store in that sacred divinatory language. So I would say that for me, tarot is amazing because it is a inherited generational divinatory language that, yes, it does use psychic abilities, and yes, it does use intuition, but there are also set meanings. Like in RWS, for example, the Three of Pentacles will never mean the High Priestess. So I like the structure that RWS provides. However, I love Oracle, and Oracle is really kind of what I got started on, as well as cartomancy, Mamluk, like traditional playing cards and telling fortunes with those, and palm reading. Those were some of my first forms of divination. So number 21 is, are you out of the broom closet? And recently, I would say my opinions on this has kind of changed. So I've never really been in any closet. I've never really had the privilege of being in a closet. However, in terms of the craft community, something that a lot of other queer witches have kind of been talking about is the inherent problem with the word broom closet, especially going back to an earlier question about uplifting and supporting queer voices. The broom closet, to me, it's not a thing. There are witches who are private and there are witches who are public. But in terms of broom closet, I don't know if that's really necessarily a good term. LGBT people have been literally violently forced into hiding and forced into closets. And we have a transgender day of remembrance for a reason. Over 300 trans women were brutally murdered and worse just last year alone, simply because they were trans. A lot of trans women, like myself, for a long time have felt that they had to go stealth, which means in hiding, literally in order to survive. So witchcraft, being a witch, at least here in America, is a very legal thing. It's not punishable by death, and you're not likely to risk much maybe some social ridicule, but for trans women especially, we have the highest homicide rate in the entire LGBTQ community. I'm gonna take this question more so as like, am I a public witch or am I a private witch? Clearly, I'm a public witch because I talk about witchcraft here on YouTube, and I feel like there's really better ways for us to express what we mean. For example, like I've mentioned, being public or being private, because that's really what we mean. Witches, at least in America, are not being forced into a closet. 22, who are you going to tag in this video? Well, I would love to tag the Nerdy Warlock. They are a good friend of mine and someone who I have missed greatly. We've collaborated a lot on my channel in the past, and I would like to tag them as well. I'd also like to tag, I don't know if they've done this yet or not, and they might have because they're always on top of the ball, but the House of Witchcraft, she's amazing. Check out her channel. I would like to tag her as well. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening to this tag video and listening to all of my answers. If you've made it to the end of this video, comment down below Lilith and let me know that you watched the whole thing, because I know that I kind of have the gift of gab and we just go on and on and on. Also, if you have any suggestions for videos from me in the future, comment down below and let me know, because I would love to hear some suggestions. And until next time, blessed be.
Every day exploring my whole life I just wanted someone who would notice me.